One late night, my angry husband yelled at me to go buy donuts for my sister-in-law. I said no, explaining that it was too late and I wasn't feeling well. In a fit of rage, he jumped up and shouted at me, then violently pushed me against the wall, making my head hit hard. I fell to the floor, feeling dizzy and hurt. While I was on the ground, my sister-in-law took the chance to grab cash from my purse and laughed at me. In that moment, something changed inside me. I decided I would get back at them. The very next day, I called the police, ready to reveal a big surprise that would change everything. My name is Amelia, and I'm 28 years old. I live in Austin, Texas, with my beautiful 5-year-old daughter, Mia. Sometimes I sit down and think about how I got here, to this moment, and it feels like a whirlwind of emotions. It wasn't always like this. There was a time when my life felt perfect, but then everything changed. Samuel and I met at a mutual friend's party. He was charming and full of energy, and we instantly hit it off. I remember laughing so hard that night, feeling like I had finally found someone who understood me. After dating for a year, we decided to get married. I was so excited, imagining a beautiful life together, filled with love and laughter. We had Mia soon after our wedding, and she was the light of our lives. But as time went on, I noticed a shift in Samuel. He became more controlling and dismissive. It started with little things. "Amelia, can you clean up the house before I get home?" he'd say, his voice carrying an edge I hadn't heard before. I would nod, thinking it was just a long day at work, but deep down, I could feel the weight of his words. His attitude began to wear me down. Samuel was once the man I adored, but he slowly transformed into someone I hardly recognized. When I would try to express my feelings, he'd brush them aside. "You're being too sensitive, Amelia," he'd say, rolling his eyes. Those words stung, but I thought maybe I was just imagining things. I didn't want to believe the man I loved could turn into someone who made me feel small. Then there was Lily, Samuel's younger sister. At 21, she was still trying to figure out her life, but she relied heavily on Samuel, and he indulged her every whim. "She's family," he'd often say when I would express my frustration. I wanted to support their sibling bond, but Lily frequently dropped by unannounced, expecting to be treated like a queen. I felt like a maid in my own home. One evening, Samuel came home with Lily, and they both wanted to watch a movie together. I had planned to spend some quality time with Mia, but when Samuel insisted that we all watch together, I felt a pang of disappointment. I tried to smile and join in, but it was hard to shake the feeling of being pushed aside. "Can you get us some snacks, Amelia?" Lily asked, her voice dripping with entitlement. "Sure. What do you want?" I replied, trying to keep my tone light. "Donuts would be great." Samuel chimed in, flashing his charming smile, but there was an expectation behind his words. I felt a knot form in my stomach. "Okay, but it's kind of late," I said hesitantly, glancing at the clock. Samuel's expression shifted immediately. "Come on, Amelia. Just get the donuts. It's not that hard." His voice raised a notch, and I felt my heart sink. "It's too late, Samuel." "I'm really not feeling well," I replied, trying to stand my ground. "Why do you always have an excuse?" he shouted, his voice booming through the house. My hands trembled as I felt the tension rise in the room. "Samuel, stop it. I'm not your maid." I snapped back, anger bubbling inside me. He stepped closer, his eyes darkening. "You need to learn your place, Amelia." And just like that, everything escalated. In a moment that felt like slow motion, Samuel pushed me against the wall. The impact knocked the breath out of me, and I hit my head hard. Pain shot through my body, and I crumpled to the floor. Through my blurred vision, I saw Lily standing there, a wicked grin on her face. "Wow, Amelia, you really let him down," she sneered, reaching for my purse. I tried to protest, to tell her to stop, but my voice was lost in the haze of pain and shock. As I lay on the floor, struggling to gather my thoughts, I watched helplessly as she rifled through my purse, snatching cash while mocking me. "Thanks for the money, sis-in-law," she laughed, as if she had just won a prize. In that moment, everything shattered. My sense of safety, my love for Samuel, the life I thought we had built. It all crumbled around me. Fear gripped my heart, and I realized that I had to get out. I couldn't stay here any longer. I had to protect Mia and myself. Gathering the last bit of strength, I pushed myself up from the floor and grabbed Mia, who had been watching the entire scene unfold from the corner of the room. Her big brown eyes were filled with fear, and my heart ached for her. "We're going to Grandma and Grandpa's," I whispered, trying to sound calm. "Why, Mommy?" she asked, her tiny voice trembling. "Because we need to be safe," I replied, brushing away my tears. I didn't want her to see me cry, but I felt like my world was crashing down. We hurriedly packed a bag, tossing in clothes and her favorite teddy bear. I knew I couldn't stay any longer. As I stepped outside, the cool night air hit my face, and I took a deep breath, hoping it would clear my head. The drive to my parents' house was a blur. My mind raced with thoughts of what had just happened. How did it come to this? I felt a mixture of fear and determination. I had to find a way to protect Mia and rebuild our lives. When I finally arrived at my parents' home, I rushed inside. My mother looked up from the kitchen, concern etched on her face. "Amelia? What's wrong?" "Mom, I need your help," I said, my voice cracking. As my mother wrapped her arms around me, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I was safe for now, but the battle was far from over. That night, as I lay in bed holding Mia close, I knew I couldn't go back to Samuel or Lily. I had to gather evidence of the abuse, protect myself and my daughter, and find a way to regain control of my life. Little did I know that this would be the beginning of a long and difficult journey, one that would test my strength and resilience in ways I had never imagined. But I was ready to fight for my freedom and for Mia's future, no matter what it took. The days following that night felt like a blur. I was grateful to be at my parents' house, enveloped in the warmth of their love. My mother, sensing my distress, would often pull me aside to ask if I wanted to talk. "You know you can tell me anything, Amelia," she would say, her eyes filled with concern. But how could I explain it? How could I put into words the pain I felt when Samuel pushed me, or the shame that washed over me when Lily stole from me while I lay there helpless? I wanted to scream, to let it all out, but I was terrified. Terrified of being seen as weak, terrified of what they might think of Samuel. "Mom, I just need some time," I would reply, forcing a smile. I didn't want to burden them with my problems, even though deep down, I knew they were my only lifeline. As I settled into my parents' home, I took comfort in the little things, the smell of my mother's cooking wafting through the kitchen, the sound of my father's laughter as he played with Mia in the yard. But the shadows of my past loomed large, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had to act. One evening, after putting Mia to bed, I sat down with my parents in the living room. My heart raced as I thought about how to broach the subject. "I need to tell you what happened," I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Sweetheart, we're here for you," my father said, leaning forward. I took a deep breath and recounted everything, the shift in Samuel's behavior, the countless arguments, the night of the incident. As I spoke, I could see the concern grow in their eyes. My father's expression hardened, and my mother's hand flew to her mouth in shock. "I can't believe he did that to you, Amelia," my mother said, tears glistening in her eyes. "I can't go back," I stated firmly, feeling a surge of determination. "I have to protect Mia. I need to gather evidence against him and Lily." "Evidence?" my father asked, furrowing his brow.
"Yes.
"I want to hire a private investigator to help me document everything," I explained. "Medical reports, photos of my injuries, everything I need to build a case." My parents exchanged glances, and I could sense their worry. "Are you sure that's what you want?" my mother asked softly. "I have to do this," I replied, my voice steady. "I can't let them get away with it. I want a divorce, and I want full custody of Mia." The next morning, with my parents' support, I began my plan. I researched private investigators in Austin, determined to find someone who could help me. I finally settled on a reputable firm and made the call. The investigator was professional, asking all the right questions. I felt a sense of relief wash over me as I explained my situation. "We'll start gathering evidence right away," he assured me. We'll document everything that's needed to build your case. Once I hung up, I felt a mixture of anxiety and hope. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to fight. I also scheduled a visit with my doctor to address my injuries from that night. The bruises had faded, but the emotional scars were still fresh. At the doctor's office, I sat in the sterile waiting room, nervously tapping my foot. When I finally met with the physician, I explained everything. "I just need a record of my injuries," I said, feeling vulnerable. The doctor listened intently, and after examining me, he noted everything in my medical report. "I'm so sorry you had to go through this, Amelia," he said, his tone compassionate. "It takes a lot of courage to seek help." Those words struck a chord with me. I realized I was not just a victim. I was taking control of my life, step by step. I left the office with a sense of empowerment, holding the medical report tightly in my hands. Over the next few weeks, the investigator gathered evidence. He interviewed neighbors who had witnessed Samuel's outbursts and documented any incidents of Lily's erratic behavior. Each piece of information felt like a small victory, reinforcing my resolve to leave the past behind. As I pieced together my case, I also took time to focus on Mia. I wanted to ensure she felt safe and loved during this tumultuous time. We spent afternoons at the park, her laughter bringing a sense of normalcy amidst the chaos. One afternoon, while we were playing on the swings, Mia turned to me, her eyes wide with innocence. "Mommy, is Daddy coming to get us?" My heart ached.
"No, sweetie."
"Daddy won't be coming for a while," I replied gently, hoping to reassure her. "Why?" she asked, her brows furrowing. "Because we're safe here, and I need to make sure he can't hurt us anymore," I explained, trying to keep my voice steady. Mia nodded, though I could see confusion in her eyes. I promised myself I would do everything in my power to protect her. As the days passed, I felt a growing sense of urgency. I wanted to finalize my divorce and ensure that Samuel couldn't come near us. With each piece of evidence collected, I knew I was one step closer to reclaiming my life. But as I prepared for the next phase of my battle, I couldn't shake the feeling that Samuel and Lily wouldn't go down without a fight. And deep down, I knew that the real challenge was yet to come. The thought made my stomach twist, but I reminded myself that I was no longer alone. I had my parents, and most importantly, I had Mia. And with that thought, I steeled myself for the next chapter of this fight, ready to face whatever came my way. As I continued to gather evidence, a sense of urgency washed over me. I knew that time was of the essence, and I wanted to move forward with my life as quickly as possible. My heart raced at the thought of what lay ahead. I had to prepare myself for the inevitable confrontation with Samuel and Lily. One afternoon, as Mia played quietly with her toys in the living room, I received a call from the private investigator. "Amelia, we've gathered enough evidence to build a solid case against Samuel and Lily," he informed me. My heart skipped a beat. "We have testimonies from your neighbors and documentation of the abuse." "Thank you," I said, my voice trembling with gratitude and anxiety. "What do I need to do next?" "We can set up a meeting to discuss your options, including filing for divorce and seeking a restraining order," he explained. That night, as I lay in bed with Mia curled up beside me, I thought about the future. I was exhausted but determined. I had to do this, not just for myself, but for Mia as well. She deserved a safe and happy childhood, free from fear. The following week, I met with the investigator at his office. He laid out the evidence on the table: photos, witness statements, and medical reports. "This is your best chance at securing custody of Mia and ensuring Samuel and Lily face the consequences of their actions," he said, his tone serious. I nodded, my hands trembling as I picked up the photos of my injuries. They were a painful reminder of the darkness I had faced. "What's the first step?" I asked, trying to maintain my composure. "First, we file for divorce. Then we'll seek a restraining order to keep Samuel away from you and Mia," he said, outlining the plan. The thought of confronting Samuel filled me with dread, but I steeled myself. "Let's do it." Within days, I found myself sitting in a lawyer's office, my heart racing as I signed the divorce papers. Each stroke of the pen felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders. You're making a brave choice, Amelia, my lawyer said, offering me a reassuring smile. This is the first step towards a better life. As the days passed, I began to feel a shift within me. The fear that once gripped my heart was slowly being replaced by strength. I knew I had the support of my parents, my lawyer, and the investigator. I wasn't alone in this fight. However, I also began to notice the whispers of doubt creeping in. What would Samuel do when he found out? Would he retaliate? One evening, while tucking Mia into bed, she looked up at me with her big brown eyes. "Mommy, why doesn't Daddy come to see us?" she asked, her voice small and uncertain. "Because, sweetheart, he's not well right now," I replied gently. "But we're safe here, and that's what matters." Her little face lit up with a smile. "I like it here. Can we stay forever?" My heart swelled with emotion. "Yes, we can stay as long as we need to," I promised, leaning down to kiss her forehead. I vowed to make her happiness my priority, even if it meant facing the hardest battle of my life. The next day, I received a call from my lawyer. "Amelia, we need to prepare for the court hearing next week," she said, her voice steady but urgent. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. "What should I do to prepare?" "Gather any additional evidence you have, anything that shows Samuel's behavior. Also, be prepared to discuss your living situation and why you feel Mia should stay with you," she instructed. As the days went by, I found myself feeling more anxious. The reality of the upcoming court hearing loomed over me like a dark cloud. I spent countless hours going through our old photographs, trying to find evidence of the life we had before things turned sour. I looked for images of happy moments, but the shadows of the past kept creeping in, reminding me of the pain and betrayal I had endured. Finally, the day of the hearing arrived. I took a deep breath as I entered the courthouse, clutching Mia's hand tightly. I was determined to fight for her, no matter what. Little did I know that Samuel and Lily would not back down easily. As we walked into the courtroom, my heart raced. The fight for justice was just beginning, and I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The courtroom was intimidating, the air thick with tension. I held Mia's hand tightly as we walked in, her little fingers gripping mine with innocent trust. I wanted to reassure her, but I could feel the weight of uncertainty pressing down on me. My heart raced as I took my seat at the front, glancing nervously at the door, half expecting Samuel and Lily to walk in any moment. My lawyer, Jenna, sat beside me, her presence a comforting anchor. "Remember, Amelia, you're stronger than you think. Just focus on what's best for Mia," she whispered, giving me a supportive nod. As the proceedings began, the judge entered, and the atmosphere shifted. Jenna outlined the case, presenting the evidence we had gathered over the past few weeks. Each photograph of my injuries and every witness statement added weight to my story, painting a vivid picture of the reality I had faced. "Your Honor," Jenna said, looking directly at the judge, "we are here today to request a restraining order against Samuel for the protection of Amelia and her daughter, Mia. The evidence shows a pattern of abusive behavior that cannot be ignored." I watched as Samuel and Lily sat across the room, their expressions unreadable. Samuel's face was stone cold, while Lily seemed unfazed, almost bored. My heart ached as I thought about the love I once felt for him, now twisted into something dark and dangerous. After Jenna finished her presentation, the judge called Samuel to the stand. I could feel my pulse quicken as he approached, the air growing heavier with his presence. He tried to appear confident, but I noticed a flicker of nervousness in his eyes. "Mr. Anderson, can you explain your actions on the night in question?" the judge asked, her tone firm. Samuel opened his mouth, and I braced myself for the lies. "It was just a misunderstanding," he said, glancing at me. "I didn't mean to hurt her. Amelia is exaggerating. I've never laid a hand on her." I felt anger bubbling within me. How could he stand there and deny what he had done? But I kept my composure, reminding myself that the truth would come out. Once Samuel finished, Jenna called our neighbors to testify. They described the nights they had heard shouting, the sounds of distress coming from her home. Each testimony built a damning case against him. The weight of their words filled the room, and I felt a surge of hope. Finally, it it was my turn to take the stand. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears as I recounted the events of that night. He pushed me against the wall. I hit my head, and Lily stole from me while I was on the ground, I explained, trying to keep my voice steady. I just want to protect my daughter. Tears welled in my eyes, but I fought them back. I wanted the judge to see my strength, my determination to fight for Mia. When I finished, the judge nodded, her expression thoughtful. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I believe I have heard enough. After what felt like an eternity, the judge returned from deliberation. Based on the evidence presented and the testimonies, I am granting a restraining order against Samuel Anderson. He is prohibited from coming within 100 yards of Amelia and Mia. Additionally, custody of Mia will be awarded to Amelia. A wave of relief washed over me, and I glanced at Mia, who smiled back at me, her innocent face lighting up with joy. I hugged her tightly, whispering, "We did it, sweetheart. We're safe now." As we left the courtroom, I felt lighter than I had in years. The battle was far from over, but I had taken the first step toward a new beginning. I had reclaimed my life and my daughter. Over the following weeks, I focused on rebuilding. I continued working at the boutique, pouring my energy into my job and ensuring Mia had everything she needed. I even started attending a support group for survivors of domestic abuse, finding strength in shared experiences. Though the road ahead wouldn't be easy, I was no longer afraid. I had the support of my family, newfound friends, and most importantly, the resolve to protect my daughter at all costs. As I tucked Mia into bed each night, I whispered, "We're safe, and we're going to be okay." I realized that while my past had been painful, it had also shaped me into the strong woman I was becoming. With each passing day, I found joy in the little moments, the laughter we shared, the adventures we embarked on, and the love that surrounded us. The darkness of my past would always be a part of me, but it no longer defined me. I was Amelia, a survivor, and the future was bright.